Hi there, welcome to the Die House Drumworks YouTube channel. I'm going to talk a little bit here about basic sticking and playing with a click. Now this will be relevant to you if you are first playing with a metronome, if you've never played with a metronome before. This is the metronome that I will be using. It's a Tama rhythm watch. And basically all a metronome is a machine for keeping time. So we set it to a metronome setting and it will basically beat that number of times per minute. The tempo that I'm going to be using for these exercises is going to be 70 beats per minute, or more specifically 70 crotchets per minute. Now if you're working on the Rockschool syllabus, this will be relevant to the debut and grade 1 sort of levels, so just entry level stuff. If you're not working on the Rockschool syllabus at all, it will still be useful to you, this video, if you're thinking of practicing with a metronome or having difficulty practicing with a metronome. So really what I'm going to be talking about is developing how to work with a metronome, how to best get the most out of it, and to get really tight to it as well, which is really what the metronome exercise is all about. So, very simple exercise to start with. The metronome's clicking 70 times a minute. All we're going to do is clap along with it. Now what you'll notice if you're clapping anywhere near in time with the click is that the click will disappear. Now we want to make that our target initially, is that we're actually clapping to try and cover the click on the metronome. And this is the first thing to get used to when you're playing with a metronome, because it's quite disconcerting actually, because we're hearing the click to start off with before we've done anything, and then once we start playing, the click disappears. So that's the first thing to get used to, clapping along with the click, covering it over essentially with your clap or your stick beat. I'm using a practice pad here today, but even at that quiet level, you'll notice that the click will disappear when we're absolutely crack on. Exercises that we have in the debut grade for playing with the click, we have single strokes, double strokes and paradiddles. Okay, so single strokes, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Double strokes, 2 with each hand, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. And then the paradiddle sticking, which is a mixture of the two. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So we get single strokes and double strokes mixed together. In the exam, these are performed in 8th notes. Now if you're teaching yourself through this syllabus, this is an easy mistake to make, is to listen to the click and play 1 beat for each click count. So in single strokes. But that will be incorrect for the exam. For the exam we need to play the subdivision of 8th notes. So as the click is beating 1, 2, 3, 4, we will be playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's another good basic metronome exercise for you when you're starting off. It's just to count along with the metronome. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that will set up your hand speed. Okay. I would also advocate counting a bar of the subdivision that you're going to play before you start. So if we're going to do single strokes, here's how we practice that exercise. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you notice that I've sort of started playing the exercise, carried it on, just keep looping it round. For the exam you only need to play the bar twice. So we play it round, the notated time, and then we play the repeat, and then we're finished. So that in single strokes that would sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Finished, just 2 bars. So essentially those 3 exercises that we have, Group A, Group B and Group C, would all sound the same. So double strokes would sound exactly the same. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. working to get both hands as even as we possibly can, single strokes. You'll often find the left hand maybe not quite as strong. So a good exercise for that actually, if we're trying to focus on the left hand, is to lead with the left. Okay? We often feel the stronger note, so the note that's falling on the click, we often feel that should be stronger. Gap, 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 gap. And by leading with the left hand, we get out of that habit. Paradiddles, a mixture of sticking, so single strokes and double strokes. So right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. If you find that sticking a bit tricky, I think compared to the singles and doubles, I find a lot of students find that one a little bit tougher to start with. Just slow the metronome down to start off with. Go down to about 60, establish the sticking, or even get the sticking together without the click at all. Practice it at a pace that you can play the sticking at, and then build in the metronome marking as you move on. Moving on from there, if you're doing grade 1, we get the single and double strokes in the same exercise. So that would sound like this. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So a bar of singles into a bar of doubles, and then the whole thing repeated. You could be forgiven for thinking, well, why are we learning all these different sticking patterns which should all sound pretty much the same, all even through the bars? Well, it's to develop control. You'll see the benefit of these technical exercises probably in the early stages as the developing an even sticking between the hands, especially with the left hand or your leading hand. If you're a left-hander, you'll probably find that your right hand will be a little bit slower at accepting this basic sticking information. So we sometimes need to do exercises which work on the hands in a more balanced way. When we're playing kit patterns, our leading hand tends to work a lot harder, so it gets sort of 4 times as much practice generally than your following hand will get. So work on evenness. Also in grade 1 we move up to 16th notes. Now the grade 1 exercises in the Rockschool syllabus are the same tempo as the debut exercises. So the tempo remains the same, 70 crotchets a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4. But when we get to 16th notes, we've now got to think of that subdivision of 16ths rather than 8th notes. We're not going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and anymore. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So single strokes at 16th note pace. Don't be tempted to add an accent. It's not calling for that in this exercise, so all the 16ths should be even. We also get double strokes in Group B in grade 1, so same sort of, it should sound pretty much the same. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Again, in this exercise for the exam, the single strokes will run into the double strokes, so you get a bar of each, but you'll see that in your book anyway, then we'll repeat those around. Group C, we've got paradiddles. I think probably at grade 1, what I tend to find is that 70 crotchets per minute is okay for things like singles and doubles in 8th notes, and probably the single strokes in 16ths. But when we get to the double strokes in 16ths and the paradiddles, again we might want to bop the click down to 60 to start. So I'm going to do that for you for the paradiddles. Here we go. So you'll hear just a little bit more steady, gives you a little bit more space. So actually let's do the double strokes first. You might even find that if that's a bit tricky, just work without the click to start off with. Build up the technique of the double stroke. So not only do we want to get evenness between the hands, between right and left, but also each pair of beats with each hand wants to be as even as you can get it. So we don't want this, where the second beat of each pair is weaker, and we also don't want this, where the right hand is stronger. Dead even as you can get. Nice open sticking. Allow the stick to bounce on the drum or the pad, whatever you're practicing on. I can't stress really with these basic exercises, whether you're doing the grade exams or whether you are just developing your own method of playing, how important control, taking your time is, and gaining really good quality out of these exercises when you're playing slowly, and really concentrating on what you're doing. Don't just blow these exercises off and just rattle through them and get back onto the kit stuff, which really is what we're in it to do. These exercises will filter through to your kit playing if you do them well. You'll feel that the sticks feel more positive in your hands. You'll feel that you have just a greater control over what you're trying to do on the kit by working on your basic sticking first. Other things that I would urge you to do when you're practicing, if you're working on a pad for instance, make sure that you've got your feet roughly in the same sort of position that they would be on your drum kit pedals. So try and create a tripod base for yourself, backside on your stool, feet either side of the pad or the snare drum that you're playing on. If you're practicing these on the snare drum on the kit, put your feet on the pedals, because that's the posture that you will be using. This technique that you're building on the pad, that's the posture that you would be using. Don't be tempted. I see a lot of students put their feet under the stool and it's just all a bit sloppy. So get your feet on the pedals, it promotes better posture on the kit and also makes it more relevant when you're translating these technical exercises to the kit as well. I think that about covers it. I think the main thing with these exercises and anything that you do on the pad is be comfortable to slow things down and go slower than the target tempo that you're aiming for. Single strokes, you know, get a real open movement onto the drum, allow the sticks to bounce on the drum or the pad, whatever it is you're playing on, and listen for that quality. When you're playing with a metronome, really focus to cover the click with every beat as tight as you can. Imagine, a good analogy that I've been using with students quite a lot recently is imagine that the click is the gold central part of like one of those archery targets. So when you think the target is quite big, when you watch people firing arrows at it, you've got the colours, you've got the gold sort of target right in the centre. So we don't just want to be roughly hitting the target, we want to be hitting the bullseye, so bang on the centre of the click, as near as you can. Eighth notes. Sixteenths. Get it as tight as you can to the click. So, quality is the name of the game. Take your time, evenness of the sticking, tight with the click, off you go. Thanks very much.